Hello, and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. So the two previous series, 84 and 85, were on Helena Blavatsky's book, The Secret Doctrine, and Albert Pike's, the leader of the Freemasons, Southern Jurisdiction, United States, Morals and Dogma. And apparently Albert Pike and Helena Blavatsky were apparently incommunicato with beings from a higher dimension called masters. So I put in about 8 hours, 2 videos each on those two books. And I thought it might be appropriate at this time to take a look at some of the words in both of those books. And I just happen to have this book, The Element Encyclopedia of the Psychic World. See the eye there? The moon. The ultimate A to Z of spirits, mysteries, and the paranormal. So I suppose if you want to try to get at the truth, it just might take a little bit of work. So I've been methodically trying to do just that. So, starting from A to Z, I'll start in the beginning, and it just happens to be the Akasha and the Akashic Records. So here we go. In Buddhism and Hinduism, Akasha is the all-pervasive life force, a universal medium. It fits all space, penetrates all matter. It is everything, and everything is in it. Hindu philosophy interprets the Akasha as the ether, the fifth element that permeates the universe, acting as an agent through which electromagnetic forces operate. In the practice of yoga, the Akasha is one of the 3 universal principles. It is one of the 3 universal principles, along with prana, breath of life, and creative mind. The 3 are all sources of psychic power. From Akasha comes will, which makes anything possible. In Buddhism, the Akasha is space, both space that is bound to the material world and space that is infinite. Madame Blavatsky, the book we went over in The Secret Doctrine, co-founder of the Theosophical Society, introduced this notion to the West and compared the Akasha to other forms of the universal life force, such as the sidereal light of the Rosicrucians, the Hindu Ra, R-U-A-H, or moving spirit, and the quintessence or luminous fifth element, invisible to humans, which binds the other 4 elements. Blavatsky suggested that the Akasha forms the world's soul, or anima mundi, and produces mesmeric operations of nature. So we're just starting in this book on psychic world, and we're already have hit Madame Blavatsky and the word Rosicrucians. Okay, so the Akashic Records. Akashic is a Sanskrit word meaning the fundamental etheric substance of the universe. According to the Theophist, the Akashic Records, or Book of Life, is extrasensory information that exists in another dimension, like the ultimate cosmic library. The records contain information on all world events and all thoughts and deeds that have taken place or will take place on earth. They may be read only by adepts. So that's people who have been initiated into the mystery school of Babylon from whatever cult, temple, lodge, society, brotherhood, etc., 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 as I keep saying, from the Zionist to the Jesuits, Freemasons, Illuminati, Kabbalah people, witchcraft people, and there are many more of these organizations. The Rainbow Agenda, which includes the gay agenda, is part of this new religious philosophy. Apparently the one world religion they want to force on the world, that is prophesied in the Bible, and even the Pope, the current Pope, has sent out a video to all the religions of the world saying there's no reason for us to be separate any longer. So what is he talking about? I suggest it's this new Age religion, which, by the way, has an office next door to the United Nations. And the United Nations has a meditation room with occultic symbols. Rudolf Steiner, for example, claimed to have consulted the Akashic Records for his description of Atlantis. Edgar Cayce also claimed to have seen the Book of Life. Some psychics say they consult the Akashic Records through clairvoyance or during out-of-the-body experiences. The Akashic Records are also called the universal memory of nature, and it is through that everyone has an inherent ability to see his or her own book and all the things they have done or felt in life. It is simply a matter of developing the psychic ability. The process of consulting the records is described by psychics as like visiting an enormous library and looking up information in books. It takes me a while to get warmed up to speaking when I start a video. Some say they are greeted by doorkeepers or spirit guides who assist them in finding the correct information. The books are kept in rows, line upon line, stack upon stack, corridor upon corridor. Some books are charred, turned up at the edges and blackened, as if they have been pulled out of a fire. Some are beautifully illuminated scrolls, and others are embossed in gold leaf with pages in rainbow colors. Yet others are bound in red leather with special emblems. So that's interesting. Another common denominator, gold leaf with pages in rainbow colors. So the next word we have here is alchemy. I'm only going to go over the ones that I have already pre-read, selected from this book. Just to give us an idea, when I keep talking about the occult, magic, witchcraft, Illuminati, things they know, and swear under threat of death like the Freemasons and all the other occultic groups not to share with the rest of us, and they call the rest of us profane, animals, goyim, cattle. But they're special because they know this stuff. So I suppose if we want to be special, we should learn what this stuff is also. The term alchemy, commonly believed to refer to the attempts to change base metals into gold, covers a wide range of topics, from the discovery of a single cure for all diseases to the quest for immortality, From the creation of artificial life to straightforward descriptions of scientific techniques. Broadly, one could describe alchemy as the art of converting that which is base, both in the material and spiritual world, into something more perfect. Symbolically, alchemy is the mystical art of human spiritual transformation into a higher form of being. The spiritual teachings of alchemy were based on the idea that humans have a spirit or soul, as well as a physical body, and it was thought that if the spirit could be compressed or concentrated, the secret of changing one aspect of nature into another could be discovered. The elusive catalyst thus that allowed this change to take place is known as the philosopher's stone, which is not a stone but a powder or liquid that turned base metal into gold, and when swallowed gives everlasting life. Alchemists are often pictured as stirring a bubbling concoction of base metal on a fire, hoping it will turn into gold. However, not all alchemists were like this. Some of the best minds of the last 20 or so centuries have studied alchemy as a way to unlock the secrets of nature. Alchemy probably first emerged in ancient Egypt and China. In China, it was purported to transmute base metals into gold, and the gold so produced was thought to have the ability to cure diseases and prolong life. In Egypt, the methods of transmutation were kept secret by the temple priest. So there's a lot more here, but that's enough of that one that I want to read. There's some much more important ones. In this Encyclopedia of the Psychic World. Here's a good one. The amulet, an object, drawing, inscription, get this, or symbol believed to have supernatural or magic power to ward off evil, the evil eye, disease, poor health, and other misfortunes. Amulets are worn to bring good luck as a kind of mascot or lucky charm. Amulets are typically worn around the neck in the form of jewelry or a charm, a magical phrase, rhyme, or prayer inscribed on paper. Amulets are also worn as rings. Remember, King Solomon had a magic ring with a six-pointed star that apparently allowed him to call forth demons, and that's where he got his power. And they want to rebuild King Solomon's third temple right now. The Jewish folks over in Jerusalem and the Freemasonic societies, as I've shown pictures of, and in their manuals, all the text is basically founded on King Solomon's temple and ancient Hebrew beliefs. So from my studies, the secret societies, like the Freemasons, Illuminati, and all that, are creations of these Hebrew Jewish folks, Zionists. Not all Jewish folks, but the ones who have turned towards this kind of thinking or philosophy and turned apparently away from God. Some amulets are found as designs, symbols, or inscriptions engraved on doors or posts. Some amulets have a color or shape that catches the eye, but almost anything can become an amulet depending upon a person's beliefs or resources. Among the most common are gems, precious stones fashioned into jewelry, and statues of animals. Representations of eyes are also common, and one of the best known amulets is the ancient Egyptian Eye of Horus. So one could say that I'm carrying an amulet on me. So I suppose this is an amulet here. The all-seeing eye on the dollar bill with the pyramid. And also, symbolically, if you look at this side, there's 13 stars, 13 stripes, 13 leaves, 13 arrows, 13 feathers. 13 is an important number, the death card in the tarot deck. And I just went and grabbed a 5 and took a stab at what a lot of people have seen on the internet. Folded it together, and you got yourself some kind of arch that you're looking through. See, the whole thing is an arch, a building, like the arch of Baal. And if you look through the arch on the internet, on some of the people who have, just trying to get it straight there. Look at the crown on top. So just imagine this is a building. And this is the arch you look through. And that's what you're looking at. And if you look at the Temple of Baal over there in London, and they do have views that they're looking at it, and through that view is something like that. The one they have in New York, if you look through it, you could see the 2 twin towers exactly. And I'm not quite sure if I fold this appropriately, will I be able to see 2 twin towers. But anyways, it's interestingly enough. And I've got some more documentation here. But this was rather suspicious, and we'll go over this again later. But this is the fleur-de-lis. Very strange lily symbol. I have a bit of an intuitive mind. We know that all the symbols with these people are phallic. Even on that $5 bill, that column could be a phallic symbol. Conchita Wurst winning the American Idol version, Eurovision, in Europe, singing the song "The Phoenix Rising" and the words "You Can't Stop Us," dressed like a woman on the head and a Jesus on the head, and a woman in a silky dress on the bottom. Conchita Wurst, one is a female part and one is a male part, Wurst, the sausage. I know this is crazy, but it's like these people are playing games with us. So when I looked at the fleur-de-lis and I thought about Conchita Wurst, and I think about all the obelisks downtown and all this other material I'm reading over and over and over again, and even in the books they admit that this is some kind of phallic sexual religion. Mystery School of Babylon, Sodom and Gomorrah, the gay agenda, transgenderism. And then you got the fleur-de-lis. And maybe I'm crazy, but I'll say it here. But in some instances, it could be construed as a phallic unit inside a female. Look right here. And I only say that because all their other symbols in part of the stuff I read has a lot of the sexual connotations to it. So we know, and it kind of freaked me out when I realized that they have made that symbol for the Boy Scouts. And so I use my pendulum to try to find out the strength of energy on these things. And it gave me a 55% negative. If you want to use it as some kind of talisman. And other symbols, if you go online and look them up. And this was on the Texas Rangers, and I see it on a lot of programs. And even the Freedom Medal that Obama gave Bill Clinton and Oprah has the circle and star. And there's one with the devil. There's the dollar bill. So why do they use these symbols when we read about them in the Psychic World book and the other book? And I keep talking about some words that add up to 666. This is research I did back in 2011. I look at the bottom of these documents. Santa Claus, nuclear hell, SS number, mark of the beast, USO, F of America, Federal Reserve, witchcraft. So I've been researching this stuff for quite a while. This particular symbol here was 75% negative. This is a talisman. This one was 80% negative. It's back in 2011. I was experimenting, studying, checking things out. The power of these symbols. You can see I put a lot of marks on here and went over them with the pendulum. Been pursuing this line of inquiry for quite a while, trying to find out why they use these symbols on TV programs. Chase Bank, almost another version right there of a swatch sticker. You'll notice it on many of your websites. So I'm not the only one that looked this up. I just found these on the computer. (2011). Here was one thing I found interesting back then. The swatch sticker can have a negative energy or a positive energy, depending on which way you aim it. See the guy with the eye here? We've seen this. You see that on all the TV programming, magazines. Symbolism is everywhere. This is what got me into this research. Is why the heck are they doing this? The devil sign, even the Pope, Ratzinger. Look at the crown on this one here, and remember the crown on the $5 bill. If you line it up right. What's with that? So all these symbols, apparently, that they promote, the V, has meaning. And lastly, Obama's thing. You can see that's the planet rising, this whatever. And so just some old research that was in that book when I went and got the book off the shelf. All these pages were in it. I researched back then. So let's finish reading here. Simple amulets have a color or shape that catches the eye, but almost anything can become an amulet depending upon the person's beliefs and resources. Among the most common are gems, precious stones fashioned into jewelry, or statues of animals. Representations of eyes are also common, and one of the best known amulets is the Egyptian eye, ancient Egyptian eye of Horus, which guarded health and protected against evil spirits. And I have noticed that this book is trying to portray what I consider evil as actually being nice. And I did look up in here Isis or Osiris or Lucifer and some other words in this book, and they're not in this book. And I saw some of the other definitions. For example, they said Satanism was created in 1500 or something, which we know in the Bible that's not true. Organic amulets such as fruit, vegetables, berries, nuts, and plants are common in some parts of the world. For example, the use of garlic as an amulet against evil may be traced back to the ancient Romans, while peach wood and stones are considered strong amulets against evil spirits in China. Certain metals are believed to have protective properties. Iron, for example, is universally thought to keep away demons and witches. Written amulets such as formulas, spells, words of power, secret symbols, religious phrases, or signs have been common since ancient times. All right, there's another word here which I did not read or highlight, but I just noticed it's here. Angel. An immortal supernatural being which mediates between God and humanity. Angels. Angels are specific to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, but they occur as helping spirits in other traditions. The word angel comes from the Greek angelos, messenger, and the name refers to one of the angel's most important duties, which is to travel back and forth between the celestial and earthly realms, bringing human prayers to heaven and God's answers to earth. Huh. So there's more in there on that. Let's go to the next word. Extrasensory perception. Or how about this word? Extraterrestrials. Beings that are not of this earth and whose existence has not been proven. The term applies to alien visitors from another planet or world. Various psychic, paranormal, and strange occurrences have been reported in conjunction with alleged sightings of extraterrestrials and their spacecraft. So I got another one up on that, is if you watch some videos of crop circles being made, somebody videoing it, so right before your eyes, you'll see a glowing orb flying all over the thing. Thousands upon thousands of sightings of extraterrestrials have been reported since interest in the phenomenon began in earnest with the famous Roswell incident in 1947. Well, the book here is a little misleading because, as we all know, history is full of examples of sightings of strange craft and things. So the next word, There's more. I'm not reading all of it. But this one is important because it's in both Helena Blavatsky's material and in the Albert Pike's Moral and Dogma, and many other books I'm going to go over. You're going to hear these words. The Hermetic or Hermeticism. I just think it's important to read about this stuff. One of the foundation stones of the Western occult traditions. Hermeticism has its root in the fusion of Greek philosophy and Egyptian magic that took place in Egypt. So we keep circling around the Egyptians. And then, of course, we have the pyramid and the eye. And FYI, get your magnifying glass out and look on the top of this one. I'll put my finger here. On the top of this one, on that little perch right there, I can see the little owl sitting there. On that little curve right there. So why would they put Moloch perched on the one? Strange. So Hermeticism that took place in Egypt after its conquest by Alexander the Great in 332 BC. That's an interesting number, 33-2. Don't we see that number when we look at pictures of the skull and bones? There's a 332. Coincidence? I suppose if I look into it, the answer will be no. Very little has survived the original Hermetic schools and their teachings, but the mystical philosophy, ceremonial magic, astrology, and alchemy were all part of the courses of study. The cornerstone of the Hermetic tradition is the maxims, as above, so below. The aim was to lead students to an experience of wisdom and rebirth, in which the individual soon realizes its connection with the divine power of the universe. And just for the record here, I think we humans do have a connection to the divine power. Now, can there be two connections? Can people go to the positive aspect, God, the Ten Commandments, Jesus' teaching, treat others how you wanted to be treated, or can they go to the negative aspect, heavenly realm, or the hell, if you call it, Hades, and connect to that realm, which is take all you want, be selfish, do whatever you want, pedophilia, perversion, stealing, murder. So people can be connected to that. And by the act of possession by demons, which apparently is on the rise right now, May 2016. So I read this stuff and I formulate my own opinion, which people should. According to legend, the wisdom is contained in 42 books known as the Hermetic, allegedly written by Hermes Trismegistus, a philosopher, priest, king, and metaphysical equivalent of the Egyptian and Greek gods Thor and Hermes. We'll be reading about these gods in Albert Pike's book, Morals and Dogma, when I do more videos. And Helena Blavatsky's book, these topics will come up. The books were written on papyrus and stored in the great library of Alexander. After fire destroyed the library, most of the books were lost, but surviving fragments. Well, we just learned a couple pages back here. Then in the Akastic records, they have those books. The Corpus Hermetium was supposedly buried in a secret location. In most of the text, Trismegistus Revelations are presented in a dialogue with his pupils. Surviving texts include the vision and the divine Pymander. The vision describes Egyptian esoteric wisdom in the development of the soul. The divine Pymander tells how the divine wisdom was revealed to Hermes, the personification of universal wisdom and patron of magic. The legendary emerald tablet, on which Hermes is said to have recorded all the Egyptian philosophy, including the magical secrets of the universe, supposedly dates back to 1200 BC before Christ, but no two versions are the same. Controversy over the age and authenticity of the Hermetic has raged for centuries. French scholar Isaac Casaubon, 1559 to 1614, suggested that the books were not of Egyptian origin, but were written by early Christians. Although occultists continued to study Hermetism, Casaubon's work, published in 1614, led to books to be cast aside as forgeries. Modern opinions differ, but most experts today believe that the writings are probably the work of a number of anonymous authors combining Neoplatonic, Kabbalistic, and Christian elements and passed off as Egyptian wisdom. The 19th century occult revival saw the reprinting of several Hermetic documents, but for the most part, Hermetic teachings were reinterpreted through the filters of theosophy and occult societies. This began to change in the 1960s, when a new generation of occultists, seeking to reclaim Western occultism's historical roots, sparked renewed interest in the Hermetical for all students and occult mysteries. Carl Jung also found much value in Hermetic writings and drew on them in his work. All right, the next word is hidden masters. You probably can go online and find this book. Let's give credit where credit is due. I'm not trying to read the book. I just wanted to look up some words that were in my other books I was reading. So when I go back to those books and we continue reading those books, we might get an aha moment. It takes a little bit of an effort to try to figure this stuff out. No question. Hidden masters. I keep talking about Albert Pike and Helena Blavatsky and many others, Aleister Crowley, who drew a picture of his hidden master. Looks like a little gray alien called Hywas. According to Madame Blavatsky, in her classic book Isis Unveiled, the hidden masters were an esoteric brotherhood. They keep talking about those Arab brotherhoods or these brotherhoods, Freemasonic brotherhoods, Illuminati brotherhoods. So don't be fooled when you watch the news and they try to accuse those brotherhoods in Egypt or Syria or Iraq. They're part of these groups. The same people causing all the wars and trying to bring about some kind of prophesized future. Return to the golden age. Golden for whom? The kings and queens and elites? The pharaohs? The Caesars? The popes? The priests? Obviously not good for the citizens throughout history. Just saying. It is what it is. The hidden masters were an esoteric brotherhood of superhuman beings hidden in the Himalayan fastness of Tibet who watched over the welfare of humanity. I've got plenty of books on this subject, and I used to think that might be the case, but I don't think so. That they're looking out for the welfare of humanity. Look at the history of humanity. the death and mayhem and theft. The little guy has always been stepped on, called the profane, called animals, called goyim, claim they don't have any soul if you're not illuminated, if you're not an adept. They have to keep this information secret from you. Blavatsky claimed to have met the hidden masters face to face and to have been chosen to bring the news of their existence to the West. Apparently there are these tall beings with long blonde hair, etc., and different other types of beings, which we could also call the aliens described by many people who see them, and who do apparently, the ancient people living underground or in the Himalayan mountains. Throughout the world there are locations, so it is said in my research, that these people have advanced technologies, which we all know advanced technologies did exist before the Great Flood. We got the evidence in the mass monuments that can't be built today. With the assistance of newspaper editor Mr. A.P. Sinnott, letters of two members of the Brotherhood were published outlining their worldview. Blavatsky's hidden masters were a part of the Eastern esoteric tradition. There is, however, a Western esoteric tradition that purports a similar doctrine. So when you go east of Jerusalem to China, Japan, India, that's the Eastern world, Mongolia, Eastern Russia, and then of course when you come west of Jerusalem to England, France, and Germany, Austria, etc., Spain, you have the Western tradition. Just to clarify, which a lot of people I don't have to clarify, but some of us, including me, we just have to examine it a little bit more deeply so people like me can get it. There is, however, a Western esoteric tradition that propounds a similar doctrine. The tradition first came to light in the Renaissance with a pamphlet entitled Fama Fraternitas, outlining the existence of a secret Rosicrucian brotherhood of masters who were watching over the welfare of Europe. Watching over the welfare of Europe, these Rosicrucian. Well, the people who installed the Georgia, USA guidestones that say they want to maintain humanity at 500 million, whoever installed them signed off as R.C. Christian. So that's been one of the signatures of the Rosicrucian. So they want to kill 6 billion people, and it says here they're looking out for the welfare of Europe. I don't get it. Which way are they going? Why are they in secret? The concept came to the fore again in the 19th century with members of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn claiming the secret chiefs adept in the occult arts and interested in the welfare of humanity. Wait a minute. Aleister Crowley's from the Rosicrucian groups and the Golden Dawn groups, and he's the guy that's claimed to be the most evilest man alive with some of his insane shenanigans, sexual and death sacrificing of children. He's the one who wrote the book of the law, and the one law is do what as thou wilt. If it feels good, do it. And you talk to people out there on the streets right now, and they'll tell you there is no God, there is no sin. Then you read this stuff, put two and two together, I guess you can come up whatever you want to come up with, if you want to see it in a particular point of view. So right here it says, we're overseeing the running of the order and the doctrines it preached. These secret chiefs spent most of their time in spirit form, but would incarnate in physical form for special missions. Alright, so these masters could exist in spirit form and incarnate into physical form. Again, when people were abducted by aliens, and sometimes people would scream out, Jesus, help me. the alien would drop them like a hot potato. What does that tell you? And like Rabbi Marvin Antelman, I keep mentioning, to eliminate the opaque, they don't want us to believe in God and pray and believe and behave, because apparently good karma gets rewarded. And the angels, as it says in this book, carry the message as we pray to God, who then acts on that. And apparently these evil forces are afraid of that. Dion Fortune insisted on the existence of hidden masters. She called them inner plane adepi, running her own society. She felt, however, that they existed chiefly on the astral plane and rarely took on physical form. Her society used trance mediums to communicate instructions from them. So trance mediums could communicate with these beings on the astral plane. Numerous other occult and mystical societies claim to be guided by one or more of the hidden masters. So let's think about that for a minute. So I thought it might be cool to take a little review of things I've talked about before and maybe a few new things. But apparently the government, your government, and I have several books by several authors of people who worked for the government as a remote viewer. Like it says in this material, they would go into a trance and be able to travel outside their body to spy on the Russians or somebody else, for example. And the Russians would have people that they used that way, and the Chinese got in on it. So apparently these people, black op projects by the governments, are into this stuff. But what do you know about it? Nothing. David Morehouse, Tim Rifat, Jim Mars. I have so many books on remote viewing. Fascinating conversation. And Dion Fortune, just mentioned in the Psychic World book. I've gone over this book. You can see all my tabs. But she has a book called Psychic Self-Defense. Just like David Morehouse and Tim Rifat. When these people sitting in that chair going into a trance, whether self-induced or hypnotized by somebody else, or even drugs, like we've talked about, that the shamans and the ancients used to do, to be able to go over to the other side and get cures for ailments or solve other problems for the tribe. But Dion Fortune writes a book, Psychic Self-Defense. How do you protect yourself when these forces are attacking you? And today with the HAARP transmitters, HAARP, microwave transmitters, located strategically all over the world, they can change people's moods, target individuals, local cell phones, your cell phone you're carrying, certain frequencies, the metal they're spraying in the sky with the sky spraying, the heavy metals. All some kind of high-tech warfare. These are the people running our world. I'm not making this up. And other books I'm going to go over. This one's quite interesting. Techniques of the Master. This is a Rosicrucian book. I've already started reading it. I'll just read one little paragraph. Very variously have been given to occult treatises that are designated the qualifications for discipleship, but fundamentally they are identical in character and expression, and will be found to underlie and indeed to be the basic cause of the development in the man in the above named qualities. So I suppose people get recruited to be trained by masters, and apparently the government's doing it to try to find remote viewers. Another book that's interesting by Want and Hannah, I've shown this before, 1942, tells all about the Freemasons, and apparently some very interesting stuff in here They inculcate rules to conduct the holding up of a god or hero as a pattern of imitation. It would be difficult to say in which these characteristics Freemasonry is lacking. So I got to read this thoroughly to make a video. Gene Roddenberry and so many others are into the occult. And that's where they got their storylines for a lot of the movies and shows that we have been watching. Hollywood is into the occult. The stuff in here is kind of horrific, some of it. But people you just wouldn't believe. Joan Crawford, his former client, Kenny Kingston, observed that her spirit had not been very nice. There's some interesting stuff when I read this and go over it. The parties they have in Hollywood, demonic parties. And apparently Marilyn Monroe was into this stuff. So I'm finding out a lot of the famous people have connections to this stuff. Or they wouldn't be famous. And lastly, before I get back to reading my Psychic World book, The Book of the Law, Aleister Crowley. So I went to the computer, just took me a few minutes ago. I wanted to get a picture of his master he was in communication with. Aleister Crowley's Lamb and the Little Gray Men. So I think it might be worth it to just take a few moments and just look at this stuff. I found 2 websites. About 2 or 3 minutes of scanning and printing. So it came on this website, bulldillion.com, lamb.lamb.htm. I want to give credit where credit is due. I copied it right here. But this guy says, I find this both disturbing and inexplicable. For what reason would a UFO book be included in the curriculum of a satanic group, and why Ray's book in particular? I emailed Ray and asked him if he had any insight into the situation, but he was as perplexed as I was. And there matters rested for a year or so until additional information came into my hands. Information that may indicate, much as John Keel himself believed, Mothman prophecies, I've shown that, I've got that book, that occult activity may be an ingredient of the gray alien mystery. I've been saying that all along. We don't have 2 worlds out there. We got one world. And we're going over that with Morals and Dogma. Helenina Blavatsky's book. We're going to go back to these. And when we go back to these, and I start reading again, it's going to make more sense than it did already. Here's another person into the Mystery School of Babylon. His book, Brave New World. They're bringing us insanity. So back to Hiawas, Aleister Crowley's. In his book, The Book of the Law, Do As Thou Wilt. He has a big, huge following. A lot of people are following this New Age and will sit there and tell you there is no such thing as sin, Rick. There is no God. There was no Jesus. You don't have a soul. When you die, you're gone. That's what people will tell you. It's because they've been programmed. Propaganda, TV programming, grade school, cartoons. They even have the ones for adults, Family Man, The Simpsons. all the other TV shenanigans that show the evil, the dark side of mankind. Texas Rangers and Gotham. I can't watch them. They just portray humans as such evil beings. So the pictures below bear a resemblance and may hold the key. The first picture is a drawing made by occultist Aleister Crowley of an entity he had invoked, reportedly in 1918, called Lamb. So these people are into this occultic stuff. I think Helena Blavatsky wrote her book in 1888 or something. Albert Pike was writing Morals and Dogma during that period also. I am aware, the books I have behind me, I have volumes of the psychic research societies. But they were really going strong from 1840 to 1940, prior to World War II, and Hitler was into this stuff, as well as many other people around the world. The second picture is a composite drawing by Anne Derringer, Contact of the Fifth Kind, an alien reported throughout the 1980s in the Hudson Valley. Having noticed the similarity, I proceeded to investigate the connection. So what do you think? Aleister Crowley's alien Lamb looks like the other alien there? Common type reported by people. Remember the movie E.T.? Huh. Trying to make A.T. to be a nice sweet little guy, riding on the bicycle. Purpose of the report. It is the purpose of this report to investigate a similarity and possible connection, particularly answer the question, for what reason would a UFO book be included in a curriculum of a satanic group? And why Ray Fowler's book, The Watchers 2 in particular. An Englishman, Aleister Crowley, 1875 to 1947, was one of the most notorious occultists of his day, and perhaps of modern times. Self-styled as the Beast 666. Remember, 666 is in front of CERN, the collider over there in Geneva, the homeland of the Illuminati and the origin of the Frankenstein myth, along with a statue of Shiva, the multi-armed goddess of destruction. He went out of his way to live up to it with his sensationalism and self-promotion. He wrote a number of textbooks on ceremonial magic, most of which are still in print. He also founded and was head of a number of occult fraternities. In short, he exerted a significant influence on the occult circles and has continued to grow dramatically long after his death. The Alma Lantra working. In January through March 1918, Crowley began a series of magical workings called the Alma Lantra workings in furnished rooms in Central Park, West New York City. These were performed via sexual and ceremonial magic, his spelling, with the intent to invoke certain intelligences to physical manifestation. In actuality, the workings typically manifested as a series of visions and communications received through the mediumship of his partner, Roddy Minor. So I guess this was Aleister Crowley dressed up in his Egyptian garb and performing sexual magic. I suppose it would either be with children, and apparently it invokes demons or masters, or group orgies, as described in Rabbi Marvin Antelman's book, part of the evil rituals they do, or the Bohemian Grove, where they throw a baby under a giant owl, like we just saw on the dollar bill here, on the one, perched on top of the one. So a giant owl in California, Redwood Forest, Bohemian Grove. Alex Jones snuck in there, did a video. Many of our famous politicians and leaders of the world, CEOs, have been photographed there. They have something called a cremation of care. They throw a baby in a fire under a giant owl, and they dress naked in long robes, and they bring in gay men for some kind of homosexual satanic ritual. And then I'm reading this. Stuff is just way out there. But that, as it may, at least one such intelligence was brought into physical manifestation via the magical portal they created. And isn't CERN trying to create a portal? Aren't they trying to put the Arch of Baal, the devil, in London and New York and all over the world? What's it got to do with each other? Has witchcraft gone high-tech? What do the powers that be plan to do to the rest of us? We know what they're forcing even the North Carolina governor, threatening him to take away federal monies for the school systems and everything else if he doesn't, if he signs that law saying that men should use men's bathrooms and women should use women's bathrooms. So they're putting the strong arm on the world on this dark future we're facing. And they have at their ability to crash the stock market, the dollar, create some kind of plague, terror event. Whatever they need to do to bring about their new age and new world order, possibilities are plenty. Scary. The entity that came through is the one pictured above left. So this is the entity that came through. Lamb, I guess. Crowley maintained the picture is actually a portrait drawn from real life. This entity either called himself Lamb or was named Lamb by Crowley. Either way, he considered it to be an interdimensional origin, which was the term then for extraterrestrials. In communication with Lamb, the symbolism of the egg featured prominently. Whoa, this is what we've been reading about in Helena Blavatsky's book. The egg, the egg, the egg. Crowley included the portrait of Lamb in his Dead Souls exhibition held at Greenwich Village, New York in 1919. In that same year, it was published as a frontispiece labeled The Way to Crowley's Commentary to Blavatsky's, Helena Blavatsky, tied in with the Aleister Crowley, the evilest man alive here, The Voice of Silence. Beneath the picture was the following inscription: Lamb is the Tibetan. Now we got Tibet involved, the same stuff that's in the books I've been going over. Word for way or path, and Lama is he who goeth, the specific title to the gods of Egypt, and the trender of the path in Buddhistic phraseology. Its numerical value is 71, the number of this book. So they're even mentioning Buddhism here, that's in Helena Blavatsky's books, and Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma. So I thought it would be really interesting to take a little detour from those two books, do this book here on Psychic World, and add some other commentary information. The way. Lamb is the Tibetan word for the way or path or Lama. Is he who goeth, the specific title to the gods of Egypt and the trender of the path in Buddhistic phraseology. All right, so try to get through with these documents quickly here. The cult of Lamb. Since Crowley's time, several occult groups and individuals following in his footsteps have claimed to have intentionally and successfully contacted Lamb. A lot of people wonder why in my series, Freemasonry and Satanism, I dwell into this UFO, alien technologies and material, books, pictures, because I do think it's connected. Most notably, Michael Bertrex in the 1960s, followed by a group of OTO initiates, there we go, initiates again, in the 1970s, the Order Templii Orientis, a magical order run by Crowley. These individuals considered Lamb to be a transmunder or extraterrestrial entity and claimed remarkable success in their invocations. So they're actually able to use words, invocations, as we've gone over, to bring these extraterrestrial entities into our world. Concerning? Alright, following the success of these contacts, interest in occult circles, especially Crowlanian ones, gathered considerable steam. In 1987, Kenneth Grant, and generally acknowledged successor to Crowley, went so far as to formalize the Lamb workings into something called the Cult of Lamb. To quote from Grant's Typhonian OTO website, the Cult of Lamb has been founded because very strong intimations have been received by Aso Iowas 718 to the effect that the portrait of Lamb, the original drawing, which was given by 666 to 718, so they're calling themselves different numbers, under curious circumstances, is the present focus of an extraterrestrial and perhaps a trans-Plutonic. So it makes me wonder about these transgender people. What is really going on? Why would the government have such a strong focus on this stuff? Spending billions to try to force society to embrace pansexualism, bisexualism, homosexuality, transgenderism, and maybe even pedophilia, child sex, and bestiality, animal sex. Anything goes. Are these entities really monsters of the dark side? Should we be concerned? Were the warnings in the Bible real? Jesus, what did he say? Test the spirits? These people who think they're communicating with beings? How do they know they're good beings? We got the books here to say you need to watch out for these people. Dion Fortune tells all. You can't leave your body and go out there and just travel randomly. There are literally monsters that'll eat you up. Over there in China recently, there's been a rash of possession. One guy described it as some kind of dark-shaped ghost, shaped like a man, trying to enter his body. Here in the United States, there's been a rash in the colleges of young women getting possessed. 3 girls were playing with a Ouija board and had to be taken away in a straitjacket. Look this stuff up. Don't believe me. I go look this stuff up. It only takes a couple of minutes. And, if I find one thing or two thing, I wouldn't believe it. But look at the volumes of books I've gone over. The pictures, the videos, the magazines, the press releases, and the obvious activities by our governments and the threats they were under of economic threats, terrorist threats, plague threats, earthquake threats, World War III threats, and so much more. It's intentional, creating fear. They have a plan. It doesn't sound like it's going to be too good for we the people if we don't wake up. Now remember, prayer works. There is a God, and we have more strength and power than we are aware. Didn't Jesus say, when his disciples were complaining they couldn't do the healings like Jesus was doing, and he said, you shall do greater things than I. So I think people just need to wake up to the reality of what reality is. It is our aim to obtain some insight not only into the nature of Lamb, but also into the possibilities of using the egg as an astral space capsule for traveling to Lamb's domain. I'm not so sure that's a good thing, to want to go to these creatures' domain. Or for exploring extraterrestrial spaces in the sense of which the OTO, trantic time travelers, are exploring the tunnels or set in intracosmic and Cantonian capsules. Remember, I've been talking about MK Ultra on the Long Island. where they were abducting young boys and apparently had some kind of portal they had opened, and they were pushing the children through the portal. Some of the young boys would find their way back into the portal, and then, of course, they would interrogate them and ask them what they saw. So what do the powers that be that run our world know that we don't know? Members of the OTO who feel strongly attached to this cult of Lamb are invited to apply for participation therein. It is open only to order members. They should contact Frata Anna Icy, 375, or the Sovereign Sanctuary, OTO, and submit a formal typewritten and signed acceptance of the conditions of working outlined here. It should be understood that proficiency in the magical formula of this cult does not necessarily comport eligibility for the advancement to the OTO, its parent order. So you have to prove yourself proficient in the use of the magic formula. Currently, the manuscript called the Lamb Statement, see above, picture above, was circulated among the OTO initiates with a view of regularizing the mode of report and constructing a magic formula for establishing communication with Lamb. Lest we forget that I keep harping about the Talmudic Jewish people abducting young boys and bleeding them to death with many holes and putting pincers and other torturous devices on the children to delay and enhance the pain and suffering for some kind of magical formula. And here we're reading about it in the Illuminati, and apparently their rituals, and some kind of entity called Pindar, and witchcraft. There's videos on YouTube of people admitting that they were driving around in a van to abduct somebody to have a satanic witchcraft sacrifice. And so on, and so on, and so on. 911 and other incidences. The Library of Aleister Crowley, a collection of Aleister Crowley's writings, including books, essays, articles, and a resource list of Crowley's numbered libri written for the occult order, AA. So there's another website I found. All his books. Another page here. So what I'll do, just so I have it handy whenever I want it, I'll just fold this up and put little Hylos the Alien in Aleister Crowley's book. So whenever we're having a conversation, I won't have to go get it again. Alright, back to this book. Sorry about my little detour. But I'm reading something here and I want to make a point. There's so much I could do here, but I can't do it all in this video. So I'll try to just stick with things I think that are important. Here's one that's a quick read. I like to highlight things. But invocation. Invocation, from the Latin invoca, summon, is the act of calling a deity or other spiritual power into the medium, magician, or witch. So if you're a medium and you're at a seance at a table, an invocation is you can call some kind of ghost spirit-like entity into your body that can speak through you. Medium, magician, or witch. It is not the same as evocation, which is the process of summoning a spirit into some form or manifestation external to the medium. Well, it's another day. I'm continuing this video. May 8th, Sunday. Mother's Day. Since yesterday when I began this video, I've had some intuitive thinking and looked up a few things. And, oh my! I've got some explosive material to do in the next video or two. In the meantime, I would like to try to complete this video, Psychic World, just looking into more of the terms and words that I was coming across in Helena Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine, and in Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma, the Bible for the Freemasons. And the two books seem to be teaching the same philosophy, which is the ancient religions, also called the Mystery School of Babylon. And apparently Helena Blavatsky went over there to India with the yogas and Tibet and all the ancient knowledge, Buddha, China, and came back to London and New York and created the Theosophist Society back in 1890s. Created a magazine called Lucifer Magazine, I discovered today, and so much more. I mean, this stuff was just falling on me last evening and this morning. And I printed out probably 60, 70 pages. Unbelievable! We'll get into that, but in the meantime, I'll finish this video. And then when I do the next couple videos, the material will be just like, OMG! Unreal how it's connecting the title of this series, Freemasonry and Satanism. It actually says it completely. I guess that's important to know. Explains a lot why they're trying to destroy Christianity and bring us the perverted, decadent society with planned anarchy and chaos, economic destruction, riots in the streets, could be between blacks and whites, rich and poor, young and old, different races and colors, and invasion, maybe World War III, maybe a plague, maybe both, terrorism, economic destruction, earthquakes, HAARP systems, HAARP transmitters, sky spraying, crops dying, more droughts, on and on and on. Because as the old phoenix must die, so that the new phoenix can rise from the ashes. And they're telling us this stuff in the Eurovision with the Conchita Wurst singing the Phoenix Rising with the words, "You can't stop us." And the Grammys and the halftime shows at the football games, all the Kali and Shiva rituals, and unbelievable. All this symbolism on TV programming, the Illuminati card games. It's all verifiable if you want to look into it. In the meantime, the next letter in this book that I paid attention to was K for Kabbalah. So we'll see what it says. Ancient Jewish mystical tradition. So I just said that. Does that make me anti-Semitic? Reading this book? Is this book anti-Semitic? No, I don't think so. So Kabbalah is an ancient Jewish mystical tradition that refers to the secret teachings handed down from teacher to pupil and promises spiritual enlightenment to those who follow its precepts. The Kabbalah is a doctrine of esoteric knowledge concerning God in the universe. It is largely mathematical in nature and concentrates on the configuration of magical words, anagrams, angel and demon names, and most holy the secret name of God. According to the Jewish tradition, the Kabbalah was first taught to Adam by the archangel Gabriel and passed on from mouth to ear through a long chain of secret initiates. So even in the Kabbalah they have initiates, the Rosicrucian they have initiates, Freemason they have initiates, Illuminati they have initiates, witchcraft they have initiates. I'm confident that there's some kind of system in Zionism and Jesuits and Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, Bohemian Grove, and all those thousands of institutions, temples, lodges of the mystery school of Babylon. Babylon meaning the gateway to the gods. So what is, I've discovered that this is all in with the United Nations and the New Age, unquestionably. Documents dating back the last 100 years, unquestionably. Whatever the truth of the origins of Kabbalah, there is no doubt that it is the very old indeed. It remains an oral tradition until 1280, when Moses ben Shemtab de Leon produced a lengthy commentary on the first 5 books of the Old Testament, the Book of Moses, known as the Sefer HaZohar, Book of Splendor. The Zohar allegedly represented the work of another rabbi, the mystical visionary Simon Bar Yochai. It departed dramatically from the Orthodox Judaism. It departed dramatically from the Orthodox Judaism and is the primary work of the classical Kabbalah developed. So at least we forget many good Jews, including Rabbi Marvin Antelman and Henry Mackau, PhD, Jewish author in Canada, who wrote the book Illuminati, the Cult That Hijacked the World. And if you go look up Zionism in images, you will see many Jews fighting Zionism. So this new religion departed dramatically from Orthodox Judaism and is the primary work of the classical Kabbalah developed. So it is my opinion, if you look into this, they switched from the God of the Ten Commandments to more of the likings of Aleister Crowley, known as the evilest man alive, to the God of Lucifer, who says, do what thou wilt. Anything you want. So I guess they switched God, but they call their God God, and we call our God God. But apparently they are different gods. The Zohar teaches that the ultimate Godhead was En Sof, without N, a limitless being beyond all description. A limitless being. The En Sof created the world from itself. And the aim of humankind is to realize union with the divine. So they want all the rest of us to join with this entity who created the world from itself. The En Sofs condensed a somewhat lesser being, the Yiwah, or Jehovah of the Hebrews, who nonetheless had the prime characteristics of the ultimate. So the Jehovah of the Hebrews, and then they got the Jehovah Witnesses knocking on your and my door. Since the name Yahweh was considered too holy to be spoken aloud, Kabbalists prefer to use the term tetragrammation, which means name of 4 letters, and refers to the fact that Yahweh is spelled YHVH. In attempting to describe the attributes and the essences of this God, Kabbalists conceived of their manifestation as 10 interlinking states of activity called Sephiroth. So let me say that again so I get it. In attempting to describe the attributes and essence of this God, Kabbalists conceived of their manifestation as 10 interlinking states of activity called the Sephiroth, that humanity must achieve to attain wisdom. The Sephiroth form the central image of the Kabbalah mediation, the tree of life, and show the descent of the divine into the material world and the path by which people can reach up to the divine while in their physical bodies. The first Setharith, Keter, is a state of unity encompassing all the rest and is the most closely associated with Yiwa. The remaining 9 culminate in Malkuth, the physical world. Malkuth. The Kabbalist ascends the tree of life through contemplation and study and meditation. The Setharists are contemplated by visualizing them vibrating with colors that correspond to their level of attainment and knowledge, along with images of the names of God, angels, planets, and energy centers. Also key to the idea that the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet are sacred symbols of the universe, known as Akarna. And to understand them is to understand life. A way to access the Akarna's energy is to chant the sounds of each letter, and to meditate on the letters is to meditate on all of creation and to achieve oneness with the whole. The Arcana are also linked with the 10 Setharith on the tree of life, forming branches or pathways. This means there are 32 ways to reach understanding or enlightenment. All of them involve years of long and intense study. The teachings of the Zohar spread into Europe in the 14th and 15th centuries, and by the 16th century, Kabbalah had become more accessible to the masses. Over these centuries, it has not only had a profound impact on the development of Judaism, but also has left an indelible impression on the Western magical tradition. Since the establishment of the Golden Dawn in the Victorian era, the Kabbalah has played a key role in the development of the Western mysticism. Dion Fortune called Kabbalah the yoga of the West, but it is a Kabbalah the ancient Hebrews might have had difficulties recognizing. Over the years, the ancient tradition has been heavily influenced by elements of Christianity. And again, mentioning Dion Fortune, I happen to have her book out here again. And I read this book a long time ago. See all my tabs? But Psychic Self-Defense. And apparently, we are all susceptible to psychic attack. And apparently, according in this new age now, high technologies, HARP transmissions, TV program, mesmerization, magazines, newspapers, news on the TV, deception, 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 deception. The children are growing up deceived. The adults are deceived these days. People will tell you, no, there's no God, that's a myth. Meanwhile, you got all these people into witchcraft and magic, apparently believing in some kind of God and sacrificing children and humans, whether it's the Talmudic Jewish people, the Illuminati, the witchcraft organization, the Bohemian Grove, and many eyewitnesses who tell the story on YouTube videos to different alternate news hosts, including David Icke with Arizona Wilder, and so many more. On my website, rickmiracle.com, I have a lot of those videos. I have one page just with all those eyewitnesses telling how they were raised from childhood into these Illuminati witchcraft organizations, and they escaped. And they tell all. Eastern and occult traditions such as tarot cards, alchemy, Wiccans, paganism, theophist, witchcraft, and astrology In recent times, emphasis has shifted almost entirely back onto the tree of life and the practices such as path working. The study of the Kabbalah is considered a lifelong occupation, and because of its emphasis on revealing secrets by initiation, it is hard to simplify and clarify. Typically, students of the Kabbalah spend a great deal of time and effort on the building of their minds, traditional associations with the Sethareth and the path of the tree of life, and then go on to formulate their own personal associations. In this way, the tree can be applied to almost any mystical system and can be used as a basis for ritual magic. So you don't believe in magic, do you? Maybe you better stop watching my videos because you might learn more than you want to know. I think I'm learning more than I want to know. Today, Kabbalah is enjoying a revival of interest. Thousands of people around the world are turning to the Kabbalah and finding it a rich, meaningful spiritual practice whose roots reach deep into the past and whose path can help them find fulfillment and understanding in the here and now. Wow. With that, I've got some pictures here. I went to my little box of my pictures I printed out over the years and previous videos. So let's see if the pictures give us any help in understanding this. Well, we know the all-seeing eye is on the dollar bill, and all the movie stars are doing this, and all the TV emblems, like, which one has the eye? Is it NBC? Or the eye in NFL that shoots out at you? Or American Idol in the eye in many TV programs? So Theron, Gothic Kabbalah, and a flaming eye. And I'm learning as I go here also, so doing this is beneficial to my education. So sharing it with people who watch my videos is a pleasure. I do appreciate thumbs down to try to offset some people who give me a thumbs. I appreciate thumbs up to offset those people giving me thumbs down who really don't want this information out there, or my opinion of it, and other people's opinion of it. But that Sethareth tree of life, a map to fractal Kabbalah. You could just look up Kabbalah images. And apparently there's one book called The Red String. And remember the second commandment, thou shalt have no idols, worship no idols. So magic like that is out. The Tree of Life. Guess they got websites now to help you study this stuff. The ancients with the Tree of Life on the Kabbalah, the ancient Hebrews. And it is coming to my attention clearly that the United Nations is controlled by these people with this New Age religion. As if a lot of people already didn't figure that out. Masonic Kabbalah gives you immortal life. Got a bug here who wants to learn, I guess, hanging on. And you can actually tap into them, use the Sethareth to manipulate aspects of God's creation. That's more or less what magic is. Well, come on, how does it work? Like I said, you can look up Kabbalah images and you'll find these. That's where I found them. Then I go down to the pharmacy and print them out so I can use them when I need to do another. The power of the Kabbalah. So just think about this. We, the people, average everyday citizens, are not into magic, not into the Kabbalah, not into witchcraft, Illuminati, Freemasonry, and all these organizations. We are ignorant of what they are into. And apparently they believe there's power in manipulating us and obtaining what they want at our expense, maybe? The way, using the wisdom of Kabbalah for spiritual transformation and fulfillment. How are you going to argue with that, huh? All these symbolism, there's the Sethereth and that island. I think if you keep watching my videos and look up some others, philosophical and psychological perspectives, you might find out there's some intentional changing of society going on, bringing about a new paradigm, which I guess is biblically already prophesized, where people will have to take the mark of the beast, microchipped, and obviously the governments are trying to use presidential executive orders and a lot of propaganda with crisis actors and gun shootings to try to disarm us, probably knowing that generally speaking the population will reject what's coming. What does Kabbalah say about me? Get to know yourself better. Learn to deal with yourself. Achieving lasting happiness. Oh my. So they got a lot of stuff going on with rabbis, if you can see this card. Another picture here, the Universal Kabbalah Network. Comes from the tree in the ground and the Kabbalah Network to try to reach fulfillment into the spiritual realm and your higher consciousness. And I'm thinking about, remember the Pinocchio movie? He's walking down the trail and the fox and the other character talk him in to go into this island with a big festival. That's called beguilement. It's like the Pied Piper. And then he gets on the island, he winds up being captive and enslaved. Beguilement. All the promises, the big festival. Come on! Join in the Kabbalah. Join into this new age. It's gonna be a party. That's not how it details the story in prophecy. Beguilement is told. Deception. Powers that be have been using that for a long time. And anyways, the Tree of Life also uses the rainbow. The New Age uses the rainbow as its symbol. And a crown right there, you notice. And the blazing sun right there, you notice. The sun god. And the rainbow is also for the New Age and the gay agenda. You don't think there's a connection? If you've been watching my material, this is clearly a connection. The Everything Kabbalah book. So, are we going to believe the people that put up the Georgia USA Guidestones that say they want to maintain a population on planet Earth of 500 million? So I suppose 6 billion gotta die. What kind of event do they have planned? World War III. As Albert Pike in Morals and Dogma, he wrote a letter to his friend Mazzini in Italy describing the 3 world wars and who would have to fight them to bring about the New World Order. And apparently these people believe in the ends justifies the means. So to bring about their nirvana, or paradise, they have to get rid of 90% of the people on the planet so they can have the planet to themselves. But they need enough humans left over for workers and sex slaves and probably sacrifices to their gods. A practical system for making the power work for you. I'm just saying, are people really believing this beguilement propaganda? Methinks so. Come on, it's got to be good. It says it on this card right here. Kabbalah is love. But I don't buy that. I pay attention to what they're doing, not what they're saying. and what they're doing with the sky spraying, HARP transmitters, deadly vaccines, Monsanto foods, overthrowing all the countries in the Middle East, 9/11, murdering all the Arabs, causing intentional economic destruction. As Alan Greenspan said before Congress, please look up what I say. Don't believe me. You've got to get a grip on this and see how seriousness this is. And then it'll do something. But don't take my word for it. It pains me if people take my word for it, because then I know they really don't see the seriousness of it all. And all the movie stars doing this, doing devil signs, doing the 3 6s. The devil is not your friend. Lucifer's not your friend. Satan is not your friend. Look at all these people who wear the little red string. They're into this magic stuff. They think it's going to do something for them. And maybe pleasing the devil will get you some earthly favors. But the end game is not going to be good when you do pass from this life. The letting go of free will. Why do you want to let go of free will? Volunteer to become a slave. Come on, don't worry about it. You're cattle. You'll get your little 10 by 10 spot to sleep in when you're not working. Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism. Just go on the Kabbalah images. Check out those 2 words on the internet. Kabbalah images. And there's a Yahoo image site. And it says it right there. Jewish mysticism. Look at the Palestinians dying. All the Arabs in the Middle East dying. The billions they're sucking out of the United States for the last 100 years. Causing 8 or 9 economic collapses since they took over the Federal Reserve. They got this stuff they're teaching people. You are God. You can be God. You get initiated. You're not like the rest of the people. You're better. Deception, beguilement. I mean, come on, common sense. Again, look what they're doing for the last 100 years. World War I, World War II. The war between the North and the South in the United States. Albert Pike was a general for the South. You don't think that was probably to bring about some end results? One of them, the things, killing all the landowners in the South and taking over their properties. What if they hadn't have done that? Where would those people be today other than dead? They have to maintain control. Is this the Kabbalah symbol, a pathway to enlightenment or a route to destruction? Or is there another option that offers an eternal life that Kabbalah can never offer? I know Jesus says, if you believe in me, and even in these books it talks about Jesus, so then you can be saved. Don't take the mark of the beast whenever they do what they're going to do. They're already giving you little microchips in your credit cards. But here's that red string magic thing with the all-seeing eye. You can't make this stuff up. Tree of life. Meditation. Give up your free will. Spend the rest of your life seeking this stuff. They're promising people. Look at the economic destruction going on in the United States right now. While Obama says everything is wonderful. Meanwhile, Israel's growing like this. The United States is doing this. Just like before World War II, Germany was doing this, and the United States was doing this economically. So there's a mental purpose why they have to get people suffering and in dire straits. Because then they will, first of all, they'll be distracted, not paying attention to the truth. Second of all, they'll jump at any opportunity to get out of the suffering they'll be in. Kabbalah with Kol Rina. Learn about the Jewish mysticism tradition through a combination of historical, textual, and experimental approaches. Experimental. That's what we want. Let's experiment with our relationship with God. With the Kabbalah. By the Jewish mysticisms. The people who obviously have a lot of concern about our well-being. Doesn't the Talmud says that it's even illegal for them to show any mercy to a non-Jew if he's laying in a ditch bleeding? And then people want to jump on board with the Kabbalah. Go look up the Talmud, see what they say. Don't believe me. Believe your own eyes. Go watch some videos on YouTube by some respected people who've done serious research. Make up your own mind. And they're causing destruction all over the world, and then they want to say, just believe in love. What are you going to do? Look at the symbols on this one. You got the snake. You got the lion with the human head. The tree of life. All the symbolism. King Solomon had a magic ring. The Lord of the Rings had a ring. But all those words and etches on there have magical influences. The all-seeing eye, the sun god. If you just have to pay attention, you can see the deception. This looks like a picture right out of a Freemasonic manual. The Holy Kabbalah. They're calling it holy. That's a sun there. They're worshiping a sun god. So now we're back to where we began, and I hope you enjoyed my little picture showing and my commentary. Crazy stuff I've been learning lately, and it's getting more interesting as I go. I think I'm beginning to put all the pieces of this puzzle together, and it's not good. It's concerning what I'm learning. Like I said, I printed out like 50, 60 pages today, and it's just crazy stuff. Alright, let me do a few more words from this book and finish this video. Probably do another video on this book. Fascinating material, and I'm only touching the surface. You can go find the book. Certainly not trying to do a audio book here. Logomancy. Logos is Greek for word, speech. And we've heard that word logos used in the Albert Pike's material and Helena Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine. So it's Greek for word, speech, or discourse. Logomancy is the term used to describe divination by words. So divining using words, magic by words. And like me using divining rods to find water or for health healing reasons and stuff like that, I'm not opposed to understanding spiritual knowledge. Not at all. Like the Peruvian shamans, when the guy took the ashka vine drug, like the American Indians taking the peyote, or the Vietnamese with the opium, and the Chinese, to enter into another dimension, freeing the spirit from the body, and traditions that go back thousands of years to find cures for people and solve problems for the tribes. I'm not opposed to these kinds of knowledge. I'm opposed to the secret goings-on with all these mystery cults, and then using this knowledge to their financial and power-mad, perverted, bloodthirsty purposes. To keep it simple. The exact method does not seem to have been recorded, and it appears to cover a number of different forms of fortune-telling. Considering the written word, it could cover such a thing as bibliomancy, considering the spoken word. It could cover sealdomancy. It could also cover psychography, spontaneous writing of a divine nature, and onomancy, using the letters of a name. Just like I use all the time when I point out Aleister Crowley changed the spelling of his name to numerology equals 666. Newt Gingrich, I think, got divorced, wanted his wife to be in I thought, what I read, a wife-swapping party, whatever, orgies. And I'm aware, because of Rabbi Marvin Anelman in his book, To Eliminate the Opaque, Volume 1, Volume 2, that's part of the satanic rituals that the Jewish Hebrews were using to attain enlightenment or super knowledge, was to actually do those kinds of things, orgies and sexual wife swapping, including having your neighbor come over to your house and do your wife in front of you. Was supposed to make you a genius. So I guess it connected you to the divine Satanism, Luciferian God. Just saying, that's what I read. You can look it up, go buy the books and read it yourself. The moon, age-old symbol of the feminine, the psychic intuition, emotional, inspirational, imagination, and the deep layers of the unconscious. The moon's phases correspond to the seasons of nature, and primitive man came to believe that it regulated life cycles, fertility, and the tides. In the 1st century AD, Pliny the Elder cataloged the moon's influence over life and put forth numerous prescriptions for regulating daily life according to the moon's phases in a 37-volume work entitled Natural History. Because of the moon's waxing and waning, reappears in fullness each month, it also became associated with the life and death and rebirth. In mythology, the moon is the destination for souls after death, and deities of the underworld are often lunar deities. The ancient Greeks believed that the moon to be a midway point for souls making their transition to and from Earth. The predominance of the moon at night, a time considered mysterious and dangerous overall, created a logical link with the nighttime activity of witches. Over the centuries, the moon became associated with witchcraft, magic, and sorcery. Today, it remains a major symbol for modern witchcraft and paganism. Moon power is mind power, and nights of the full moon are still regarded as the most potent for magic and the world of spirits. So I guess you're going to have a full moon and you belong to a witch's coven. I think they have 12 or 13 witches that make up a coven, 13. And you really want to please the gods, then you got to go abduct a good Christian person and sacrifice them on an altar, maybe? No, there's nothing wrong with witchcraft. If they need to sacrifice a person or two, what do you care, long as it's not you? Crazy? Coven activities are often set around the cycle and phases of the moon. There you go, witches' covens. And witches work their magic in accordance with the lunar phases. And I did look up witches' holidays, and I did see some pictures that I hope my brain doesn't bring back to my head. They were just disgusting and horrific. I suggest you don't do it. Don't go look it up. I can't believe they're on the internet. Some of that stuff's with little 1-year-old naked children. I kid you not. The waxing moon is said to be positive for growth, achievement, good fortune, and healing spells. The waning moon is said to be positive for banishing spells and the undoing of harm and negative influences. In general, although not always, magic worked with the moon is considered woman's magic. This is because the moon is recognized as having a profound effect on the menstrual cycle and the tides. In ancient times, women would often withdraw to huts during menstruation to contemplate and absorb the power of the dark moon. In many, but not all, cases, lunar deities are female, and the moon is the most often personified by the triple goddess, Virgin Mother and Crone, represented by the classical goddesses Artemis, Diana, Selene, and Hecate. There's more there, but I'll just move on to the next word. Alright, the next word is occult. Occultism. Helena Blavatsky's book used the word occult all the time. Albert Pike, occult. Occultism. Occult means secret or hidden. Is used to describe practices involving secret or hidden magical or mystical knowledge followed by initiates through the ages. It also applies to the mystical societies like the Rosicrucians and Freemasons. It is similar to the term esotericism, but esotericism suggests a theoretical knowledge, whereas occultism implies the idea of practice as well as study. The next word. I think everybody knows what prophecy means. With oracles, Nostradamus, Joan of Arc, Edgar Cayce, American psychic Jean Dixon. So I'll just pass over that one. Another one here. I think I'll end this video with this one. It's so interesting and bad. Satan and Satanism. Satanism. My series, Freemasonry and Satanism. Clearly identified in this book under occultism and elsewhere in this book. Satan, translated from the Hebrew, means an enemy, considered to be the embodiment of evil in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic religions. Satan has many aliases: the devil, the prince of darkness, Beelzebub being among the most common. Remember, they're trying to put up the Temple of Baal in New York and London. They have. And take it on a tour around the world. They put the big goat devil on the Hoover Dam, the largest projected image ever. They put up the goddess of destruction, Shiva and Kali, on the Empire State Building. The Shiva, the goddess of destruction, is in front of CERN, the collider, along with the 666 being in their logo. It is usually not to refer to him directly by name, as to utter the sound or name of Satan is thought to draw unwelcome attention. There are those who revere him as a deity, as a source of black magic, and rituals are performed to him. The worship of the devil is known as Satanism. But what did it just say here? It is usual not to refer to him directly by name, as to utter the sound or name of Satan is thought to draw unwelcome attention. I wonder what kind of attention you get when you put him on the Hoover Dam, on the Empire State Building, or the Temple of Baal in New York and London. I suppose you would get some attention. Unlike many religions and philosophies, Satanism generally focuses upon the spiritual advancement of the self, rather than upon submission to a deity or a set of moral codes. It should be noted also that so-called classic Satanism is not actually known to be practiced in the world today. Church of Satan is the fastest growing church in the world right now. I said this book sugarcoats some of the stuff and tries to take the evil out of psychic world. You see all the symbols they're putting out there right now, and this writer actually says Satanism is not actually known to be practiced in the world today. Tell that to all the people who make up videos on those talk shows on YouTube This is the Satanism depicted during the Inquisition, with tales of murder, incest, and baby eating. Alright, it's going to get worse. Sorry about this. The emergence of modern Satanism was largely the result of a hoax carried out by the French journalist Leo Taxo in the late 19th century. The devil's been in the Bible since the Bible existed, so this is not true. In 1884, Taxo published pamphlets detailing a vast satanic organization of the Paladin Order, which was associated with Freemasonry. Interestingly enough, in 1880, Helena Blavatsky praised as Lucifer in the Bible and in her newspaper called Lucifer Publishing and Lucifer Magazines. So this author is just maybe isn't aware of the truth. After several years during which the Catholic Church lent the anti-Palladian crusade its full support, Taxo announced that the whole thing was a fraud, concocted to demonstrate how gullible the Catholic Church was. Well, every time they do something, they try to say it's a fraud. Heck, the Talmudic Jews probably say all those cases where people were tried in court for abducting young children and puncturing holes in them to bleed them and drink the blood for rituals is all a fraud. If you tell anybody that the Jewish people will run out of different countries, almost 100 countries over 2,000 years, they'll tell you it's a fraud. Prime Minister Sharon of Israel saying, don't worry about America, we control America, they'll tell you that's a fraud. Anything derogatory said about these people into the dark side, not all Jews, they'll tell you is a fraud. That goes without saying. Like Obama saying the economy's doing great. Meanwhile, the stock market is climbing ever so higher, and it's just a little bit nervous because what's supporting it with all the chain stores closing and job losses, at one point there'll be the nosedive down. Is that planned? After several years during which the Catholic Church lent the anti-Palladian crusade its full support, Taxo announced the whole thing was a fraud, concocted to demonstrate how gullible the Catholic Church was. The word Satanism first entered the English language in the media accounts of the Palladian affair. Okay, so they called him the devil. They called him Lucifer. They called him Ra, Isis, Osiris, Horus on the US dollar bill, Moloch, Baal. These things go back in history forever. Aleister Crowley's activities gave a major boost to Satanism, but the first public satanic religious organization did not surface until 1966, with Anton LaVey founding the Church of Satan in San Francisco. Interesting enough, in San Francisco and in Newtown is the second address for the Church of Satan. Got a little dog that just walked out. So the Church of Satan is a fast-growing church, and if you watch the TV programming and see the symbolism on people's bodies tattooed and everywhere, you would think that a lot of people are really into Satanism. As much as showmanship as about religion, LaVey's group spawned a number of copycat groups who took devil worship more literally, and also gave rise to the Temple of Set, dedicated to the study of the left-hand path. The 1960s and 70s saw a large-scale campaign to prove that secret conspiracies of Satanists were at work in America's society, committing crimes and encouraging sex, violence, and revolution. I got the books to prove that's all true. These claims reached a peak of frenzy in the 1980s with the dozens of satanic abuse accusations and prosecutions. I got books to show all this is real. We all know about politicians getting caught in many horrible sexual robbing, thieving situations, and apparently they belong to one lodge or another secret organization. A lot of child trafficking and all that stuff. in the 1980s also saw the emergence of Satanism as a small but huge profile subculture among American teenagers. Remember Pokemon, the little characters, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, with the monsters on those little round chips? I said to myself, man, these kids are going to grow up and want to look like that. And if you walk down the city streets today, they look like that. They go out of their way to look as bizarre as they can. Mind control. Drawing their inspiration from Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible and from other Satan-related ideas in literature, music, and popular culture, adolescent Satanists became the focus of a great deal of debate and uproar in the media when a few disturbed teenagers committed crimes in the name of Satanism. Many contemporary Satanists eschewed traditional religious beliefs, attitudes, and worship in favor of a more egotistical worldview and practices such as magic. Oh my! So I got some other words here to do on my next videos. Just looking to see if there's anything I really want to do with this one. I guess there is one more here. The Theosophy, the Theosophists. Helena Blavatsky's religion. So let's see what it says about that. The term Theophist comes from the Greek word theos, God, and Sophia, wisdom, Theosophy, and it is used to refer to a school of mystical thought and belief that arose out of the formation of the Theosophical Society. Theosophy teaches that one can gain knowledge through practices of the occult tradition and claims that all religions stem from the same root of ancient wisdom, and that the study of ancient myths and symbols will lead to truth and spiritual awareness. The primary expression for Theosophy is the Theosophical Society, an international non-sectarian and non-dogmatic organization. Founded in 1875 by Madame Blavatsky and others, the society has three stated aims. Listen up here, this is the New World Order, this is the United Nations under their control. To form a universal human brotherhood without distinction of race, creed, sex, and color. To encourage studies in comparative religion, philosophy, and science, and to investigate the unexplained laws of nature, power, and magic. That's what they want to bring us. The society has attracted many prominent intellectuals in its time, including Aldous Huxley, who wrote The Brave New World, and W.B. Yeats, who were involved in one of the society's main activities, translating the holy works from Eastern cultures. Much of the credit for the introduction of Indian and Chinese philosophy to the West must be given to the Theosophists, who first translated it into English many of the texts still used today in yoga, Buddhism, and New Age movements. That's what it says in this book. According to Blavatsky, ancient civilizations such as the Egyptians, Greeks, understood esoteric wisdom better than we do today. Masters live on through the centuries in various incarnations, guarding their knowledge and teaching it to students. Most of the masters, Blavatsky said, reside in Tibet and India, forming the Brotherhood of the Adepts. And it is these masters who are the real founders of the Theosophical Society. I remember on the beginning of or sometime earlier in a video, I showed about the Aleister Crowley and his interdimensional being Hiewas, or Lamb, which looks like a gray alien. This makes one wonder about all this. Blavatsky said, following the instructions of the masters on 9 March 1875, she formed the society with the help of Colonel Henry Steele Olcott, an American attorney and federal government official, and others. Wow. So this is the New Age religion. At first, the society struggled to survive in England, but following a visit by Blavatsky and Olcott to India in 1879, it started to gather a following among the British in India, and also attracted high caste Indians. In 1889, Blavatsky met Annie Besant, an ardent freethinker and feminist activist who had converted to theosophy. Besant became Blavatsky's last major disciple. Following Blavatsky's death in 1891, Besant, a gifted writer and orator who developed a great deal of her efforts to political and social reform in India, took an active part in running the Theosophical Society. One of the movement's later gurus was Indian-born Jiddu Krishnamurti, who became a popular spiritual leader between the two world wars and attracted a large following. Theosophy is a secret doctrine that only reveals its practices and beliefs to the initiated, so it is hard to define exactly. Its motto, current to this day, is the adage, "There is no religion higher than truth." It remains a curious blend of esoteric Buddhism, Hinduism, mysticism, Lamist doctrines from Tibet, and a picture of world history that includes a series of root races sketching back to Atlantis, and a non-physical period of prehistoric evolution in which the ecosphere gradually solidified into matter. Today, the Theosophical Society headquarters are based in Adyar near Madras, but it is a worldwide organization that has lodges and reasonable-sized followings in America, the UK, Europe, and other countries, according to the Society's international website, www.ts-adyar.org. The Theosophical Society, founded in 1875, is a worldwide body whose primary object is universal brotherhood based on the realization that life and all its diverse forms, human and non-human, are indivisibly one. The society imposes no belief on its members, who are united by a common search for truth and desire to learn the meaning and purpose of existence by engaging themselves in study, reflection, purity of life, and loving service. Theosophy is the wisdom underlying all religions when they are stripped of accretions and superstitions. It offers a philosophy which renders life intelligible and demonstrates that justice and love guide the cosmos. Justice and life guides the cosmos. Tell that to the millions of Arabs who have been recently murdered and displaced, and all the cities and buildings bombed to smithereens, while Israel's growing like a weed financially. Just saying. And the preparations the governments and powers that be are doing for World War III, aircraft carriers and all kinds of other stuff. Government buying 450 million hollow point bullets, building all kinds of FEMA camps, increasing police laws to police us, monitoring, spying on us. Its teachings aid in the unfoldment of the latent spiritual nature of the human being without dependence or fear. So, who are you going to believe? The people who put all that horrific stuff on TV, shows like Texas Rangers and Gotham, depicting humans in such a sinister fashion. Cartoon shows like Family Man, Homer Simpson, The Simpsons, and so many more. Modern Family. Then you got 2.5 men, and poor Charlie now has AIDS. Who are you going to believe? You're going to go for these lies coming out of the United Nations? Biodiversity, sustainability, global warming, one world currency, one world religion. The Pope's calling for it. They're all calling for it. Look what they've done in the past. If they can't control small countries and cities and large countries, how are they going to control the world? If anything, by force, by microchipping everybody and computers monitoring everybody. No freedom but slavery. So again, I say, you can listen to the sweet words they say, the promises, fraternity, justice, for all, or you can look and see what they're actually doing. Crisis actors, school shootings, 911, falsifying information to get America and start World War I and World War II, and so much more. Thank you for watching my video. Rick Mariko reporting.